Good afternoon. It's great to see you. Thank you all for coming. I was just saying the music's a little bit AI. It's very nice for this year here at Frankfurt. Very good to have you with us because I'm with two of my favorite people from Audible who are going to give us an awful lot of very interesting information. You know, in publishing, we do our audiobooks. We love our audiobooks, especially because they're selling so well. But we don't always know some of the mechanics behind them. We don't always know some of the possibilities about them. And we don't always know what may be ahead. If we knew how to think about them and even expand them further in terms of what we're doing with them, where could we go? And we need to find out because they're a wonderful medium. I was just talking, if you were with us, with Veronique Cardi from Paris. And she's been so impressed with how the French are starting to listen. And that wasn't something they did easily at the beginning, and now they're really enjoying audio. So it's moving along. In fact, that has something to do with what we want to start with. As we talk to Lee, we talk to Sadaf, what we are saying here is how much of the audio that our consumers are listening to in publishing, how much of it is in their original language? You know, we're hearing a lot about consumers who want to read originally in English when something comes out originally in English. They will leave their own language and go read in that. But what is the case when they are actually listening to something that they want to hear for the first time? Lee, are they listening in their own language? Or are they listening in another language?
They are listening in their own language. So right now, about 85% of people who are engaging with audiobooks are engaging in their local language. And so it's one of the reasons why it's extremely important to make sure as many books as possible are available in that local language.
Right. And local language can mean a lot. I mean, if you're in Latin America, you're dealing with a lot of variations on Spanish, for example, even Portuguese at times. How much of Audible's production is going into that kind of indigenous dialect of various languages?
You know, we are just sort of bringing it back to a little bit of the bigger picture. What we know is by some estimates, 150 million books exist out there in the world, and only over 1 million are actually in audio today.
Wow.
So there's a massive disparity. The bulk of the titles that exist today are actually in English. I think this was mentioned in some of the other panels that I attended yesterday, so that shouldn't be news to anybody. But there's a massive opportunity between that 1 million and change and 150 million estimates to actually bring more titles to audio and to bring those titles not just in the language that the book might be published in, but in an additional 5, 10, 15 additional languages in order to bring the sort of diverse content to every corner of the globe and to enable people to listen in their native language. So we see this tremendous opportunity, and we really see AI as a tremendous enabler to that. We also know that people have diverse tastes. Audiobooks is fundamentally a long tail business, and so people are listening to lots of different types of content, and we think the opportunity is really tremendous.
It's long tail, and as someone was saying to me yesterday, it was John Watt from Bonnier who works in audio with them. He was saying it's very personal too. In a sense, people picking out books for themselves are often operating in a more personal format. They are looking for something they want. They know what they want a little more clearly than even in print, which is fascinating.
It's interesting because
where does that come from? What does that mean?
You know, I think one of the things that we see on Audible on our service is 80% of the listening is actually backlist titles. So, you know, these big bestsellers actually make up relatively a small percentage of the listening on our service, and it feels counterintuitive, but obviously, you know, I think people in the publishing industry understand that. But people have diverse interests. You know, they have niche, you know, things that they're interested in. And we really think that sort of bringing that backlist catalog to audio enables people to get access to that content. And we also know that audiobook listeners actually consume more books overall. So it's a really great customer, and that benefits the entire industry at large. Were you saying something?
Well, I was just going to say, yeah, as you were referencing audiobooks consumers consuming a lot, in the EU, we did this Audible Compass survey, and on average, people are listening to 3 audiobooks a month. So for those who are listening, which is quite intense. And I think when you look at the publishing industry as a whole, I know a recent study in the US showed that reading for pleasure has dropped by 40% over the past 20 years, which is just a staggering number. But we've been seeing great growth in audio, and so we think one way to do that is to really increase the number of titles that are available in audio. As you were saying, people have particular tastes. Someone comes and looks for the niche book in audio and they don't find it, well, they're just going to move on. But if we can make sure that those titles are available, that opens up a whole new world of opportunities.
It really does. And I'm turning this way, not to get my back to you for a minute, but because it's the point in the week where I forget our title. But I know it has to do with AI's potential in exactly what we're talking about. And what's really interesting to me is that when we talk about backlist, which we need to sell, I mean, this is wonderful that it can actually help revitalize a great backlist. It's also AI that may be very helpful in making that possible, right?
Yeah.
Because to work with human narrators on everything you wanted could be incredibly expensive,
That's right.
prohibitively expensive.
That's right. And so, there's, as we mentioned, a tremendous opportunity of titles that don't exist. And we really think that having new approaches and innovative technologies through which publishers and rights holders can bring those titles to audio actually helps to, make it easy to bring those to listeners across the globe. So without that, it's not necessarily cost effective, especially when you're talking about, maybe an emerging marketplace or, underserved sort of languages. So this really is, we think, just an unparalleled opportunity in time. Audible has this vision of bringing every book in every language as an audiobook, which is, to me, and I think to a lot of other people, incredibly inspiring. And we believe that AI technologies, as they're emerging and obviously continue to evolve, actually facilitates that vision for us.
Would you like to put a date to which you will accomplish this fine goal?
Well, people keep continuing to publish, but also, AI technologies over time actually will enable you to simultaneously publish in a dozen, 2 dozen, 3 dozen languages across the world in
I'm
an
amazed
easy
at
way.
the speed of the technology.
Yeah.
The fact that something can actually be laid down. Now, it needs checking, it needs the edit and that kind of thing, but you can go in about 15 minutes. Something can be prepared in some
That's
cases,
right.
which is quite extraordinary. This is nothing against the human reader, by the way. I'm a great fan of our great voice artists who are so good. But at some point, it's much more than our human artists could handle either. I mean, it kills them to be in the studio long enough to do one as is. It's difficult work.
Well, we definitely see this as an and strategy.
That's right.
So, and by that, look, Audible has worked in the past 2 years with more narrators than we ever have before via Audible Studios. We invest in really high quality productions. I just listened to Pride and Prejudice, an Audible original adaptation coming out of our UK office. And I'll say, that's not usually something I would listen to, but we can work with great human actors and have an amazing production with high quality sound effects. And someone like me who never listens to romance is like, wow, that Mr. Darcy, I mean. And that title's in 6 languages. We've got our new Harry Potter books coming out. The first one releases in November. That works with over 200 actors. Once again, Dolby sound effects, et cetera. So we're really investing on both sides. But certainly with AI narration and translation, like Sadaf was saying, there are at least 100 million books in the world that are not in audio today. And there's no way we could, even if we had the money and the time and the narrators, we would never get through all of them. But this technology will help us get there. And as someone who's very much committed to making all titles accessible in all formats, I think that's really important.
No, I love what you're saying, because being an American, and we are never impatient, us. I actually get ticked off now when a new big book comes out that I've really been looking forward to, and the audio version is not there yet. It makes me crazy. I start calling people. It's ridiculous. But it's to me, it's where we're going. The ability we've learned in our English language markets to lay down all 4 formats at once is incredible. To offer paperback, hardback, ebook, and audiobook is really the formula, if you can get it there, not to window these things as we used to do.
Yeah.
And thanks to you guys, we're getting closer and closer to that. The Compass survey that you were talking about, can you give us any sense, Lee, before we leave that area, about where in Europe there is the greatest strength? I mean, I suppose England, as the leading English language market, is the lead, or is it the Nordics?
So there are strengths in each of our areas. Germany is a very large market segment for us, and the audiobooks are
growing fast,
extremely
I hear.
popular there. But yeah, we
yeah.
have great growth in each of our marketplaces. I will say, when we talk about what are the opportunities for publishers in AI, we say like, where have we can we really increase the availability? So definitely backlist. We're looking at educational content. Think about those books that may be business or instructional that maybe would have to be updated periodically, which just was cost prohibitive to ever do an audio before. But now you can do them and update them.
Right.
From a genre perspective, we're looking at what genres are popular in which territories. So I have my little cheat sheet here, but we're talking mysteries and thrillers are extremely popular in Germany, with 46% of Germans and Italians saying that that's their most favorite genre to listen to. 48% of Spaniards list mystery and thriller. Crime is another popular one in Germany. About another 48% of people listing that as their most popular genre. In Italy, they are very much interested in the literary area. So there are some niche titles there that would actually be very good that are in the backlist that haven't been produced into audio, but really do have an audience, especially in that market segment. So it's something that publishers should be looking at.
Isn't it great to see Italy coming along too? Because originally the Italian market was a bit like the French market that I was speaking with Veronique about, where digital was just not real welcome at the beginning. And yet they all had the phones. I mean, everything was teched up enough that they were ready to go. And now they're coming along very quickly, which is great to see. But the crime and the mystery is fascinating, let alone the Nordic noir, right? Yeah. Blood on the snow, as we call it. It's got to be so popular. Here's a question that I should have asked you if I could ask this at the beginning, but I didn't. When you work in the Nordic regions, do you find a commercial resistance in place? Because Storytel, of course, is so powerful there, and a couple of others, most of which have merged at this point. But I know that Jonas Tellander did a great job of getting things off the ground in the Nordics. How does Audible find that market or that set of markets for itself?
Yeah. Well, I think Nordics is a great example of a market segment that is really into audio, and it's something that we've been looking at, and we've been talking to Nordic publishers. We have titles from all regions available, and even though we don't have a specific offering based in that, people can come to any of our sites from anywhere in the world and consume audiobook content. So it is definitely one that we're seeing growth in, and we're excited to get more involved in.
It's good to hear. Now, this is a journalist talking. You understand I'm not in the office with them, but one of the things we noticed about Storytel was that they did such a great job of expanding into country after country and language after language. But they had to become huge producers, which, unlike you guys, they hadn't planned to be, right? Because they would get into a new market and there simply wasn't enough there. And so I would think that the fact that you guys work at the scale you do can only be helpful, because then the cross-referencing is going on and everybody's finding what they need. Abundance is what works, and that's what kills piracy, as we understand. We have to keep saying it. The more, the merrier.
That's right.
It really is. As crazy as it sounds, that is where we want to be. In terms of, well, let me ask you this way. In terms of other markets, since we're with such an international group here at this point, where would you guys like to break in? Is there any part of the world that you haven't found a lot of reception to yet that you're thinking, gosh, it'd be great if we could just push that one open?
Well, I'm sure you like to talk about our Mexico launch that just happened recently.
Yeah, that's right. So
how many languages there?
So we launched with Latin American Spanish in Mexico, sort of
Great.
a neutral Spanish.
Right.
But we do offer capabilities within our AI offering and our catalog more broadly with Castilian Spanish as well, which people in Latin America are open to, but maybe don't prefer as much. And we're looking at additional Spanish accents as well to make sure that we think about catering to the local.
I've heard there are as many as 25 different accents going up, pretty heavy accents.
Yes.
Affected by the indigenous languages in Mexico. So there's plenty, as we were saying, there's plenty of opportunity there.
Yeah.
That's great. Congratulations
Yeah,
on getting
thank
into
you.
Mexico.
That was,
Yeah. It's a
we're
very
pretty excited
exciting
about that.
market. I keep thinking that we should see more of that moving up into the States too.
Yes,
Because
I
of
think
course,
that's right.
wonderful Latin population that is right there, right across the border. This is interesting when you're telling me that 97% is it that's not available in audio. That's incredible, and there's out there already. Otherwise, in the other formats, just amazing. When you're getting feedback, this is interesting from publishers. A couple of the notes that we did before, onboarding or in conversations to AI. What what are you saying to publishers? Are the main things they should think about at this point as we start going into the AI era, if you will? It seems it because we're all talking about it. What do you tell them first? I mean, do they fear it? Do they welcome it? What does it mean to them in terms of audio?
Publishers have been very receptive to the possibilities that are available to them with AI, with translation. So it really is opening up a whole world of backlist titles, certain niche titles that they just really couldn't produce before. So, I think it was definitely different several years ago where, look, we weren't ready to talk about AI much before either. And part of that was we were making sure the quality was where it needed to be so customers were happy with the content. And then we went to the publishers and they were happy with the quality content. And so then we were able to move forward.
Yeah, and I think it's probably worth adding that we are in the process, as of earlier this year, actually onboarding some select partners onto our AI offering for publishers, which we're incredibly excited about. And we have three major categories of that offering. The first is sort of regular AI narration or TTS, and we offer that using 100 voices across a number of different languages, a bunch of different English accents. British, Australian, American, Southern American, a couple of Spanish language, Italian, French. So lots of options, and we're continuing to actually grow that. You can actually use that through our self-service portal or through a managed offering. So you sort of give your titles to Audible. Audible does the production, the editing, and actually publishes those titles for you, which is kind of a nice service. The second is translations, right? So we talked a lot about translations and bringing content in lots of different languages to listeners across the globe. And our current offering is English to Spanish and French, and we're about to roll out later on this year English to Italian and German as well, and we'll continue to expand that. There are two different components of that. The first is a text-to-text translation, and then you can narrate it with either AI or live narration if you choose. And then the second is a speech-to-speech translation. So you can actually take the voice of the original narrator, with their permission, and actually bring that to the target language. So you preserve the performance and the voice of the original narrator, which I know is an important decision in that original selection. So lots of interesting opportunities there. The last one is our voice replica offering. I rolled that out first a number of months ago within our ACX platform, or the Audiobook Creation Exchange, which is our indie publishing product. And on that, a narrator can create an AI replica or clone of their voice and then use that to narrate jobs or audition for jobs on the marketplace. And that's now also open to publishers who want to bring their own narrator and then use that for production on our service. So there is a lot going on. That was the highlight reel of all the things that we're doing. And there's so much more underlying that, and we've seen interest in all of those things across the board, and some really great early feedback as well.
That's incredible. There really are so many options going on. I think the thing that I keep looking for as a user is, when will the time come when I can select? I want to hear a narrator of this kind. I want to hear it with this accent. I want to hear this age group. I want to hear whatever. Because as I've said a couple of times this week, it's always sad to me when you see somebody get an audiobook and they tell you they're not going to listen anymore because they don't like the narrator. It's like, oh gosh, why can't we just change that, and give some of the 700 voices, right? Give them an option here to find something they want. Is that coming? Will there be a time when for an extra token, I'm sure I can actually get a change.
It is something that is requested. We are always evaluating our offering to make sure that we're catering to what customers, listeners, publishers are asking for.
Yeah.
So we will take it under consideration.
Thank you very much. I will look forward to having this. No, I think it's going to be quite amazing because there are sounds I like to hear. I love Campbell Scott when he reads because he doesn't act out and do a lot of funny voices. Whereas in other cases, you want to hear a great deal of acting
That's
coming
right,
along.
yeah.
It depends on the material, you know. And I think having that kind of option is going to be good. What is the most important thing as we get to the end of our time here that you guys would like the industry that you're talking to right now to listen to? I mean, these are our trade visitors. These are the folks who are in the trenches trying to work their way to the best solutions for audio that each of you have in your houses. What is it that Audible is trying to most get across in terms of messaging at this point?
Well, I think right now is the time to start experimenting and getting into these new technologies. When I started in publishing, I was working with authors and agents to license titles from, who didn't have a presence in audio yet. And sometimes they would find that their audiobook sold much better than it did in ebook or in print. And I think there are those opportunities that are going to be out there also from books that are created with AI. And then we could say, look, like this book's selling well, let's go now produce it using a human narrator. Like I said, this is very much an and approach. I also just think about like, what does it mean to have every book available in every language? Right now, I think the audiobook industry is somewhat not as large as it could be because we only have about a little over 1 million titles in audio. And so I think the possibilities are large. And I would also say, the way we've built this technology, we are continuously working to improve it. So we're releasing a new version of our virtual voices now, and we'll release a new one next year. But now isn't too soon to start working because right now we're offering to upgrade our voices for free for a period of 2 years for those publishers who start working with us. And that's something we're going to continue to offer. So it means that the quality of even stuff that's produced today will keep on improving, which is really an exciting opportunity.
Yeah.
And just from the other side, because we all work with the artists a great deal too, quite closely. What is the sense in the narrator community right now? Do you feel like there's great resistance to what's happening because, oh, my job's going to be taken away by the machine? Or do they understand replica, that they could lay down their own track and then actually have their voice, by contract, by permission, all transparent, put across into a reading they didn't have to sit in the studio and do, right? I mean, do they get this yet, or is there still great resistance in the community?
So I think what's worth sharing is, sort of reiterating some of what Lee said earlier around all the great live narration we're doing in
Right.
addition to the AI work. And I think we're employing a record number of narrators. We mentioned the Harry Potter titles, which I personally am big fangirl. I'm very excited about. I think one of the things that we've really tried to do is navigate all things AI in an incredibly thoughtful manner, and trust and transparency is a core tenet of the overall program. So this is so critical. This is so critical to us. This is so critical to our partner relationships. And the way that we've structured, for example, the voice replica program on ACX is that it's completely opt-in, right? So narrators who participate, they can choose to participate, or, if they're not comfortable, they don't have to participate in the program. If they've created a voice replica, they can decide which jobs to audition for with their voice replica or with a live narration. So again, completely in their control. We never use that voice replica without their permission. It is 100%, in their control, opt-in. And we're actually rolling out a feature just in the next coming days that actually validates it's a live read feature. So if you're an ACX narrator and you've uploaded these files to create the voice replica, right now it's sort of an invite-only program, we actually give you a text, you read it live, and then we match the live read with the files that you uploaded to make sure that you uploaded files that were actually your voice. And if it's not, it gets flagged and you're not able to create that voice replica. But we want to make sure that we are transparent, that we are earning the trust of narrators. We label all of our titles on the product detail page and the pre-roll of the title. The voice replicas will say, the narrator's name in voice replica, right on the product detail page. So it's really important to us to be incredibly transparent and earn the trust of all of our partners as well as our customers through this program.
Sounds great.
And look, you can only be in the studio for so much time. We had a narrator reach out to us who had gotten ill, but guess what? You work with their voice
That's right.
replica and create audiobooks and not lose out all that revenue during that period when they were sick. So I think they do realize the opportunities, and they're really excited to get working in it. We've got great feedback from the
right.
ACX voice replica program.
It seems to me that even the ability to audition through your replica has got to be valuable because
Yeah.
that cuts down on time that you
That's
have
right.
to.
It's really helped people to increase their
studio.
earnings and take on more work. And,
Yeah.
if you're an independent, creator of some sort, obviously this is a really important part of your livelihood.
Yeah, you've created a product that's sitting there ready to be used by permission.
That's
I
right.
like that second level of security you're talking about, where it's going to be matched to make sure you are who you say you are.
That's right. It's really, critical.
No, this is good. It sounds like things are going in the right direction. And I suppose if we get this right, we will have a happy and profitable community of readers who understand exactly what this is doing for them instead of the obvious and understandable angst that they had in the beginning when it sounded like as AI does to everybody in the world, that it's going to take the job away. Not at all.
No.
Let me give them a lot more. This has been a great conversation. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I'll share one last thing.
Please
I know
do. You want to, people get to contact you,
Yes,
right?
people contact me. I mean, first,
I told them I'd forget this part.
There was an interesting stat I learned from one of my colleagues earlier that about 30% of Germans like to listen to audiobooks as they're going to bed. And so, I think everyone in this audience really wants to know, Porter, when can we listen to you narrating our audiobooks in German, Italian,
know you
Spanish?
already know that, yeah.
I have my card here. The email address is contentpartners@audible.com if you want to create a voice replica.
Thank you so
The rest of you
much.
can reach out to that email address as well for purposes of getting your titles into audio via either human narration or TTS. We would love to work with you.
Wow, that's great. And it really was a dark and stormy night. I'll put you to sleep so fast you won't know what happened. Let me tell you, I'm keeping that card. Listen, thank you guys. You're
Thank
wonderful.
you.
Thank
Lee,
you.
Sadaf, thank
This
you.
was
And
great.
thank you, all of you. Please.